fine.
Thank you so much. So welcome to Rise with Sinalo Matubatuba, and today we have a very special guest that is known in the LinkedIn and YouTube circles as the Law Mom, Lisa Valine Thomas. Welcome to Rise.
Thank you
I
so much for
haven't,
having me.
thank you. I haven't done an interview in over a year, so please bear please bear with me as I think I'm a bit rusty when it comes to doing interviews. But this podcast is where we explore growth, career journeys, and all things that have to do with making a meaningful impact. I started the podcast during my university days as a way to encourage and uplift other students who seemed as though they didn't, believe in, ever making it and ever reaching out to, achieve their dreams. So I started this podcast, and initially I had, people that I interviewed from students to lecturers, and other people in business. So because of your footprint and the impact that you have made through content creation, I think I started following you in 2020, and yeah,
Mm.
it's been great. And the content that you make is so amazing for law students, and I believe also lawyers in the field and others who are onlookers who are actually, nervous and don't know what to do in terms of joining law. It's such a great place to start at, and you deal with questions that, many people in the country and, beyond our borders struggle with in terms of how they should align themselves in their careers. And just a brief note, could you please tell us where you're from and how it all started?
Okay, thank you for that introduction. So I'm from Durban. I've never left Durban. Hoping to at some point, but yeah, so I'm a Durban girl, born and raised, very conservative. I call myself a retired pastor's kid, so you can imagine the growing up situation. And basically, I mean, went through the same uninformed journey that we find most of our colleagues and law students, going through. And leaving my last job, office-based job, was in 2020, um, just before we went into a hard lockdown. So that led to, obviously everybody was like going online for different reasons. And so that's when I first started using LinkedIn, at least decently. I'd been on there since 2012, never really used it. And so the way it started was just, I guess I was just feeling sorry for law students where everything now, lectures, everything was going online, and I knew there'll be all these questions and they might need someone to talk to. So that's literally how it started. It started just wanting to be a help. And then from there, it went into mentorship. Um, and then, of course, the more I interacted with CAs, the more of their needs became exposed. And every time, for me, every time I come across a pain point amongst that demographic and even the industry at large, I seek to find a way to solve it. So the first type of solution you would say would be the content, because I realized that they needed a bridge between university and legal practice because nobody has the time to reorientate them and to teach them. So that's how my post even started. It was just firstly coming across the abuse that they go through and then wanting to create that bridge and just be like a helpful, empathetic, understanding person. And of course, the law mom thing kind of evolved from there because I became very maternal, and even baby lawyers evolved from there because, that's how I affectionately viewed those that were up and coming in the legal profession. So, and then the posts have just evolved as I've gotten feedback. Like I said, identified more pain points, more areas that needed clarification. And so, that thrust me into the world of being a content creator, which if you ask me that um, probably 5 years ago, I would have like, nobody knew what content creation was then. But I
Yeah.
never was a social media person. So, and I still don't post gratuitously. So even getting on Instagram was a bit of a struggle for me because I'm not one to just put my life online and
Yeah.
talk about stuff and post selfies. So whatever I do now in the social media space, I try to make it of value and try to, of course, each platform is different. So I've got to see what people are looking for on each platform, and that by itself can be a job. Um, but of course, I've got other things, a million other things, not even on the back burner. It's like on the middle burner and the front burner. So there's all these things competing for my attention. But as I said, everything that I strive to do is usually meeting some kind of a need. It's addressing a pain point, be it mentorship, teaching, coaching, my posts, and even my external teaching stuff is it all just aligns with sort of my mission in the industry, which is to be I wouldn't say, I don't think I'm a force for change, but at least to start something, to be a catalyst and have other people hopefully take the baton or find their own voices and say, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. Because, like I mentioned at the outset, I'm nothing special in terms of how I came up. Just very very ordinary, and never even saw myself becoming famous or infamous on LinkedIn, depending on how you want to look at it. So it's very much, yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing, but it's also in parallel to that is to be an inspiration that other people can also find their place in the profession like I did. And even if it's unorthodox, it's okay. There is no one size fits all, as long as you're adding some kind of value to your colleagues.
That's amazing. When it comes to content, I'm also guilty of this. You can get quite nervous, even on the receiving end of what you are saying and the stereotype which exists of how lawyers are, in
Mm,
terms of being in the background, being quiet, not having social media. But I think it's
mm,
all part of being that 21st century lawyer that has chose to embrace technology. And while we're on that topic of technology, part of this episode is about personal branding, and
mm,
you have quite established yourself with your own brand, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, you are a LinkedIn influencer. And
mm.
for someone who wants to establish themselves, since personal branding is very crucial to one's digital footprint, um,
Mm,
how did you do it, and how can you possibly briefly advise someone who is starting out in their career and who is still at school, who wants to,
mm,
improve their online presence and work on their personal branding?
mm. I think it's very much the reasons why you even get into the profession in the first place is to serve other people. So that's always been, I mean, I've gotten abused as well. If you serve without intelligence, you will get abused. But I think finding myself, discovering myself, because I lived, you know, like all of us, or most of us do, we sort of grow up with what people, or we behave in the way people want us to behave. And we become versions of ourselves that is not true, and we suppress a lot of things. So I think for me, the catalyst for me actually like forcefully putting myself out there was being okay with my talents, my strengths, my weaknesses, and who I am, and just being unapologetic and being okay with people that don't like me. So I think once I hit that realization, then I think my content, was really born or buoyed by that. Because the last thing you want to do online is be somebody that's not you.
Yeah.
Whether you're creating educational content or whether you are, putting your life out there, which is something that is a thorny issue for me. Um, but I think even when you're creating legal or educational content, whatever the sector, you got to be you. So you got to bring all your talents to bear because that's part of your brand. Your brand is you. Okay. Some people believe there's a separation between personal and professional. I think not. I think it's all integrated. It might be just certain parts of yourself that you might choose to reveal, but whatever you choose to reveal, it has to be you. So I think that's what has endeared my brand. Um, and of course, I never started out with the intention of building a brand. Like I said, I just wanted to help.
Yes.
And what made it stand out was that nobody was doing it. Number one, and number two, I was the most unlikely person in the profession in terms of ranking to help candidate attorneys. You don't get advocates helping candidate attorneys. Okay, they are lower in the advocates. Average advocates as a candidate attorney is like an ant, maybe smaller than that. It's for squashing and for not acknowledging, right? So I think that's what made it stand out. People, and I would get DMs like, why are you so kind to us? So why are you being so helpful? And for me, it was never about, okay, this is my ranking. Okay, I have so much of knowledge. Okay, I'm the be all and the end all. Listen to me. Whatever I had, whatever experience, knowledge I had, I leveraged that to help people. And I think that's what, and of course, I listened to people. So they said, what, we want pictures or we want this topic, we want that topic. And I listened to them and I gave them what they wanted. So I think, finding yourself um, wanting to serve people, meeting a need. Okay, and the best needs you can meet are the ones that are in your demographic. I would say if you're just starting out, that is. Um, so for me, I'm able to address it sort of top down because I've gone ahead. And frankly, my own colleagues are too far gone for me to teach them anything. Um, but if you're a student, you want to, and I encourage this in mentorship, in even in posts that I do on personal branding, which is if you're a student, you have a voice, right? That's a good thing. But as two caveats will be don't overestimate yourself because university has a way of building us up, right? And when we get out there into the real practice world, we realize we're not that great, we don't know that much.
Yeah.
So have a fair estimation of yourself. And I think the sooner you find yourself after university, like you shed that identity of being a student, the better. Because then, like with me, you'll know exactly who you are and what you're about, and be able to project that into the world, into the professional world, doing whatever it is you choose to do, whether you teach, whether you are just providing study tips, or whether you just whatever it might be that you're contributing. So it's knowing yourself, knowing your identity there, and of course, in knowing that you don't overestimate yourself. So I call that staying in your lane, right? Because you do get a lot of presumptuous law graduates that think that they know a lot because they attended a couple of webinars and online programs and after university. So stay in your lane, and of course, meet a need. So never come on with the intention of attracting an audience. Just meet a need. If you're meeting a need, people will come to you. Um, and of course, that
It,
is you now. You're adding value. I call that adding value. So if you're creating any type of content in the legal space or any type of content, like how is it building up people's lives? How is it in the legal space? How is it making them a better practitioner? how is it giving them insight as a student, right? So as a student, it's creating content. You want to know, what do law students need? What are their problems? Are the common questions they ask? What are the common fears? How can you give them strategies to conquer that? Whatever, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a good place to start as a student. And of course, as you gain experience, you must want to use that experience to still to help. So whatever I won't say only, but people get shocked when they realize I have 5 years of cumulative legal experience, both in law firms and in as an advocate. And I'd be like, only 5 years. But what have I done with those 5 years? Right? And if you want to include my years as a student, that's another 5 years, which I talk a lot about when I'm mentoring as my life as a student. But my time in the field was 5 years, but it's in having that knowledge, I'm able to still help people. It doesn't puff me up. So even as a law student, when you go up the ranks, but never forget the people that are still coming up. Never forget what it was like to be a student, what it was like to be a candidate attorney, what it was like to be a people advocate, and sort of create content that helps people. You have to give them a hand up because chances are somebody gave you a hand up. So I think it's just that collegial spirit that you're not a legal professional for the sake of your ego or your narcissism or right? Whatever you do in the legal profession, whether it's helping clients or colleagues, it's number one, it's all part of your personal brand. And number two, you know, people, you get known for that because you get known for helping. You're a helper, you're a, you're an empathetic person, you know people's struggles. And that's how you start to curate your brand. You say, okay, how can I add value to clients? How can I add value to my legal community? How can I improve myself? And then you start to share maybe life tips that you're learning, time management, and say, oh, a lot of people have made accurate assumptions about me based on just my content without having met me. So you can curate a brand like that by just, you know, investing in yourself, wanting to add value, wanting to help. It just comes from, I guess, being you firstly, and then knowing what your colleagues need in your space, and then never forgetting as you go higher that people still will need your help and they need your empathy. So you don't use them as your audience only when you were a student, and then you forget about them after that. Their needs now will change. As you've gone up, they might be moving with you, or moving parallel to you, whatever, and then their needs change. And so if you are alert to their needs changing, you will say, okay, how can I be of assistance to your new set of needs? So it's like you're always being aware of the people in your community, collegial community. And you're like, okay, she's really answering all of the questions, or she's really got a finger on the pulse. And that's because you're not just creating content for an audience. You're not building a brand to get sponsorships and deals. You just being yourself,
What about the
and
money?
you're being a help, and you're adding value by being yourself as a legal professional. So
Yes.
the trick is not to let the profession change you, I suppose.
Yeah, thank you for that. I find it really, really relatable to my story because, as you grow in the profession as a student and, going through the ranks, there are many people who are watching and many
Mm-hmm.
people who are your juniors who are watching and who want guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, people are even scared to approach you, and discuss things. But then I realized before venturing into content creation that at university, um, I was in leadership, within the law fraternity or within the law faculty. And I was getting this influx of students who wanted to know how do they do this. And I'm quite passionate about, giving to someone's personal or professional development. Hence the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and hence I started the podcast. And
Mm.
I've had other students venture into content who are like, but I'm not getting any likes, but I'm not getting any listens. And I'm like, I think the first podcast episode I recorded had about 2 listens. And it's not really about, the analytics of reaching the ceiling,
Mm.
but it's
Mm.
about the value in the message that you carry and who receives that message and what they do about it.
Mm.
There have been times where you might feel discouraged in continuing with that journey, but you're actually, disadvantaging someone who was actually listening to
Mm.
you. So I always say
Yeah.
to upcoming content creators that just look for that one person. It might be an imaginary person, but when you
Mm-hmm.
speak into the mic or when you create your content, look to send a message to that person.
Yes.
And you raise a very interesting point about networking, which is something that it's not contentious, but it's such a hard thing for students to navigate around because um,
Mm.
I think the idea of networking at some level is that you need to interact with the big names, the
Mm.
accomplished people. And for me, in my own personal experience, this year I came to a realization that networking is not just about connecting with the executives, the accomplished
Mm-hmm.
advocates, the attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
also to maintain that relationship with people that you have grown up with people that
Yeah.
you went to school with. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like what are your thoughts on networking? How can students best network, but not just students, also graduates who are
Mm.
going into the workspace?
Um, I've done a couple of Instagram lives with a colleague on networking this year. And one thing that I'm passionate about, and I think it comes across even in LinkedIn, is that when people message me or when they connect with me, or send me a connection request, they are utterly shocked that I respond. Um, and for me, that's both what concerning and uplifting at the same time. And for me, it's like, why wouldn't I respond? Because I'm creating content for you. I want to talk to you. Okay. I want to relate to you. So of course I'm going to respond. I send everybody that sends me a connection request a personal message in response. Um, and so the first thing about networking, if you're even looking at that as networking, like on LinkedIn, just connecting with people, that's one level of networking. The first thing you want to do is build relationships. Um, and like you said, you're not if you want to be a cloud chaser, then chances are you're in the profession for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So there are obviously people that want to connect with me or want to chat with me because they want to put my name on something. Or they want me to come speak at an event because they want to just put my name as a selling card, maybe as a draw card, right?
It's a
Now
booster.
that is as a booster. And then when it doesn't work out, then they're like, oh, okay, not many people came. Now that's obviously, if you're cloud chasing, then that's the wrong reason, I would say. You must look to build a relationship with the person. So whether you are networking virtually or in person, I think a lot of graduates, students, law students, they have this idea that they must go armed with a bunch of CVs and just go and I mean the the hiring people and the law firm partners that might be there will be hiding because they know we're going to have all these this influx of over enthusiastic students wanting to make a good impression, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I promise you, if you focus on relationships, think of networking as first relationship and then the opportunities will come. Acquit yourself well in the relationship without being a pest, of course. Acquit yourself well, or maybe if you are only have a LinkedIn relationship with a person, maybe say, touch base every month or at the start of every week. Start to build a rapport with the person, right? And then from there, you might get referrals if I know that you're a serious contender, you're always checking up on me. I get people that do that. Very rare, but I always appreciate it. But they'll say, and I'm always used to people asking me for stuff. So when I see a message, I'm like, oh, what now? Yeah, human beings, like it gets tiring, right? But um, but then you get the odd person that'll say, no, I'm just checking up on you. I saw your post and I just want to see if you're okay. Now, if you keep something like that up, the chances of them considering you for any referrals or anything they might be doing is decently high, right? Why? Because you've built something with them, you've built a rapport. There's a little bit of trust, maybe they haven't met you, but they feel safe enough maybe to refer you for something. So I would say that don't go in with this top heavy, I want a position at your firm, and then say, oh, by the way, how are you?
Yes, it's
I think
it's a
I
bit
think we've been
opportunistic.
taught to, yeah, we've been taught to, we've kind of flipped the thing on its head. Networking is about relationships. Even if you're going to a physical event, you know, and of course I've gotten the question, what about introverts? And I did a post about introverts and branding and all of that. But you just go there and you talk to them like they're real people. You might carry your CD, maybe it's in the car, maybe you'll say, okay, for the first 20 minutes, I just want to talk, I just want to mingle. And then maybe in the last 10 minutes, I want to hand out my CD. But people will always connect with you because you chose to have a conversation with them first, over a coffee, over a glass of champagne, whatever. And then afterward, they might say, hey, you have your CD, let me, I want to take it. So that is the better way. That is actually the healthier way to do it. And what you end up doing as well is you end up maybe keeping that relationship alive. Because now you're not just going to that as a means to an end. You're not going to the event, you're not connecting with the person on LinkedIn as a means to get a job, as a means to get articles, as a means to get your first post admission position. So the chances of you keeping that relationship going after you've gotten in wherever, maybe the referral was successful or whatever, or you got into partnership with that person in some venture, then of course that relationship becomes possibly lifelong, right? As opposed to just throwing your CV at somebody without getting to know them and then you just use them basically. I think there's this consumer mentality, especially and also when it comes to content. I used to challenge I had a volunteer project. I used to say, you know what, guys, but you must repost the thing with your own thoughts. So you
Yeah.
don't just take, download, share it with your network, right? Don't just
Engage with the
consume,
content.
consume. Engage with the content, leave an insightful comment. I always engage with the comments. That's another thing. Nearly, I don't know, 99.999% of the comments I respond to because I'm a talkback person. That's the kind of content creator I am. So don't just consume. Leave something behind. Don't just come on with the intention to use people or like I said, if you're in a cloud chase and you're just using their name, you're using the firm, you're using people to get to the top. And that's never a good sign in terms of if you're a young aspiring professional, what you're gonna do in the future to get to the top, right? You're just gonna be not worried about relationships. If you get your own firm, you're not going to care for the employees. You just want to land the next contract, the next big this, the next big, partner poach from the other firm, and so I think just focus on building relationships. And if you're strategic about your networking, you must have a plan, right? So you want to say, maybe if you're an introvert, you prefer doing it virtually. Then say, okay, I'm going to connect with 5 people on different levels. So I'm going to connect with a student, I'm going to connect with a person that's post admission, I'm going to connect with somebody that's a little bit more experienced, and I'm going to try and connect with somebody that's super experienced. So also networking on different levels means that your networking experience and even your relationships will hopefully that become diversified. So you're not just building a network of huge names. You're also building a network that involves a student, it involves students, it involves first year post admission, it involves CAs, it involves pupil advocates, right? So in that way, what you're doing, you're actually spreading yourself out over all the possible demographics of the profession, and you're looking to build relationships at as many levels as you can. And then, like you said, people are listening, people are watching. If you strive to keep those connections alive, then opportunities will come your way.
Thank you for that. I think it's very important for us to be intentional about how we
Mm.
advancing in our careers and the type of career that we want. So thank you for your insight on that, because I think it's something you cover so much in your content. And for the listener, they should go and stalk you and look at the great content that you release. And unfortunately, we are running out of time. And I wish we could, continue with this conversation, but we are running out of time. And for the listener, I think it's very important for you to know that, personal branding is a journey and not a destination. And if you want to capacitate yourself in your career, it should never be about um, the super promotion, or how you can best look at it like you're in Wall Street, but it should be about intentional relationship making. And you will always need everyone, because the legal circle is a very small circle, and
Mm.
people like Lisa are our heroes. And I would just like to thank you for the work that you do. I saw a post about you saying some people don't appreciate the work that you do. Uh, I want you to know that it is very appreciated, or highly appreciated, by some of us. Please continue doing the work. And thank you so much. On Rise, you help us rise. So thank you. Until next time. And you can find Lisa on LinkedIn, YouTube. She has a podcast called Lawyers with Stories. Is that correct? Yes,
Mm,
Lawyers
correct.
with Stories. I did my homework. Lawyers with Stories. And yeah, so other than that, thank you, Lisa, for joining us. And thank you for the listeners that have listened to this far. Until next time, bye.